Tov. Okay. We continue and conclude today the 9th letter. Yesterday we spoke about a very profound, I would suggest not such an easy achievement, that when we work, we don't work for the sake of sustaining ourselves and sustaining our family. But we work with the intention of sustaining our people. That inside the slice of my bread is your portion too, which is a pretty lofty ideal. Definitely the human condition would not dictate that I should go to work not for my benefit. Human condition, it's about my benefit. Well, Alter Rebbe told us that when we close our eyes and say the Shema, we are thinking about God. Then when we open our eyes and it's a godless world, meaning godless for the Jew means self-directed. Doesn't mean you're bad. What do you mean? Providing for your family is amazing and a great thing. As a matter of fact, I don't want to get into political issues, but that's part of the problem of Western civilization today. Is not being responsible and not providing. But the Alter Rebbe is saying, well, that's not what the Jewish people are about. Who is like you, the Jewish people, one nation in the earth, in the earthliness, in the mundane activity of going to work. We need to be different. We are different. So we need to express that. How? That, inside my slice of bread is your portion too. Not my family merely. My family first, because I'm obliged. What so comes out over here is our, we're not motivated only, and even primarily, by love. Because love will dictate that I'm going to take care of my loved ones, who I feel close to. But out of a sense of responsibility, which ultimately is also a sense of loved ones, but on a deeper level. But actually, he's not going that way. We need to be responsible. And feel that connection. And to the community. So, this is what the Alter Rebbe explained yesterday. So he says, therefore, my beloved ones and brethren, direct your hearts, and these words that I've expressed briefly, and really they need to be explained more face to face, as opposed to a letter, which this is a letter. And particularly he says, and now that we're on the footsteps of Mashiach, we're on the heels of Mashiach, so the main and the most important service today is tzedakah, is charity, is tzedakah. As our sages say, that the Jewish people will only be redeemed through tzedakah, through charity, which, by the way, redemption for the Jewish people means redemption for the entire world. So it's not just, affecting the Jewish people, but this affects all of humanity, because when Mashiach comes, all of humanity is also redeemed. Which, by the way, as a side point, the Alter Rebbe is not saying this here, just to bring out the point that, Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. He's our God now, Rashi explains, but when Mashiach comes, he'll be the God of all people, because redemption is coming for all people. not just the Jewish people. It'll come through the Jewish people's leading, and leading here, as he explains, with tzedakah, charity. Now, our sages in the Talmud, the Alter Rebbe said, well, but isn't the Torah study equal to all of the acts of loving kindness? So then, why is that? Why are we saying that charity is what's going to redeem the Jewish people? If isn't a Torah that's equal to all of the other mitzvahs? So Alter Rebbe explains that was actually in the days of the sages, that the main funnel or the main focus of divine service was Torah study. That was the principal area on how you served God. So you have the sages of the Mishnah, the sages of the Talmud. That was in their day. Now, however, he says that we're on the footsteps of Mashiach, when he uses the term that the Sukkah of David has fallen. So Sukkah meaning the home of God, and King David, who is the source of that home, right, has fallen, meaning we're in a time of exile. We're in a time, and as he explains, what does it mean fallen? Fallen to the heels. Fallen to the ground, which your heels are on the ground. Which means spiritually fallen to the world of a siya, the world of action. So the divine presence of God has fallen, exile, to the lowest level, to the, when something falls, it falls to the lowest point. The lowest point is the world of action, the world of asiya. In other words, the world was, in the times of the Holy Temple, there was a manifestation of the divine presence of God in this physical world, in the Holy of Holies, that it was an elevated state of being, of divine consciousness as a result. That's all fallen. Again, where? To a siya, the lowest dimension, which is the world of action. Well, now the only way that you can transform from that darkness into light is through action, right? Corresponding to action. In other words, intellect and emotions, thought and speech is not enough. Because just like in the human dimension, those elements are the highest of our humanness. The lowest of our humanness is action. Not lowest in value or importance, but the lowest in that action means extending your hand. That's an action. Well, animals do that too. Animals don't communicate, though. Not the way we communicate. Not with intelligence. Meaning that's the higher part of us. So the lower part is action. Well, that's where the divine presence has fallen into the world of action, the lowest point, the heels. That's what means the heels of Mashiach, on the footsteps of Mashiach. And because now we have to take those footsteps of action to lift it back up, to elevate it. Why action of the action of tzedakah? Any action, so, putting on tefillin is also action, right? It's an act of putting on tefillin, lighting your Shabbos candles, and there's other active-oriented mitzvahs. Why is it tzedakah? The Alter Rebbe explains, because another idea of what the world of action, what's the world of action? It's the lowest of the worlds. World of Atzilus, God's presence is manifest. In the world of action, God's presence is concealed. This world has nothing of its own, of God. in the sense that godliness isn't revealed, right? It doesn't have anything, meaning the ultimate thing, God. Again, obviously God is here and everything, but relatively speaking, the revelations of the higher spiritual worlds compared to this world, it's nothing. This world doesn't have. Higher worlds has. Well, what is tzedakah? Is giving to someone who doesn't have. And lifting them up from the bottom. Lifting them up. That's what tzedakah does. And that's what we need to do. That's reflecting in the idea that, again, Sukkot David Noifeles, the presence of God has fallen to the lowest place. So from the lowest place, you got to pick it up. This lowest place that has nothing of its own, nothing of that presence as it does the higher worlds. So you got to pick it up with something that corresponds to that. Tzedakah corresponds to that. Giving to the one who doesn't have. That's where you're giving. Because if they're wealthy, they don't need. They don't have. That's the act of tzedakah, truly corresponding to that spiritual level of asiyah, providing beneficence. Who has nothing of its own. This world has nothing of its own in the sense that it doesn't have the revelation of God's presence. And whoever sacrifices their impulse by giving tzedakah, in other words, to do it with an open hand, with an open heart, as we explained earlier, inside my piece of bread is yours, sustenance too. So when you will do that, so what are you doing further? You're taking the darkness of this world, which is my evil inclination within me, right, that wants to hold on to the money for me and my family and for what is important to me, and I'm opening up my hand, right, and I'm giving lovingly. That's converting darkness into light. That's what we're doing on the footsteps of Mashiach, the lowest, again, the foot touching the ground, the lowest part, and uplifting that. And with that, we will merit to behold the eye-to-eye God returning to Zion, to Jerusalem, meaning the divine presence that we will be able to behold. Right now, the presence isn't there. That's what it means, has fallen to the lowest place. But through this, we will be redeemed, and we will be able to behold times of Mashiach, that the physical world of Asiyah will be revealed, the presence of God in such a manner that we will be able to behold it in the physical reality of this world, not just in the mind's eye, and that God's presence will far surpass all of the spiritual worlds above and anything that has ever existed. Time of Mashiach. Powerful idea of the power of tzedakah done in this manner and changing the world for good. Do we have any questions? Any comments? Let me take a look. Margot from Finland. Shalom. Sneer. Good afternoon. Susanna Chodsh Tov to you in Miami. Michael Boker Tov. Karen from London. Thank you for joining. Good afternoon. Rusty from Texas. Good morning. Paula's with us from Bakersfield, California. Julie, hello. Oh, thank you. Sneer. Thank you, Denise. Rena from Colorado, Boker Tov. John very well said, love is an emotion, does not always lend itself well to an assumption of responsibility. right? Actually, love is the right side. Chesed, kindness, it's expressed in acts of loving kindness. Responsibility actually is the left side, meaning coming from fear, coming from awe, coming from respect. When you respect your responsibilities, you'll fulfill them. Love won't lead you to truly being responsible, but respect will, more so. Something of love. Thank you. Good point. Augusto from Guatemala, thank you for joining. I think maybe a first time. Cindy from Florida, Boker Tov. Serach from the morning. Gianna, thank you. Olena, good evening. Oh, where are you from? That it's good evening. Welcome. I think also first time, perhaps. Rona says she has the picture, but she doesn't have the sound. I think everybody else does, so please check it out. Yes, Luciana, very good. Okay. Denise asked a very good question. When Mashiach will come, will be redeemed, is there a need to give tzedakah? That's a very good question. I would imagine tzedakah will take on a different meaning. Excuse me again. My apologies for, well, not apologies. No one's going to catch my allergies. So, Maimonides Rambam says that when Mashiach comes, that the world will be full of dainties and as plentiful as the sand of the earth. So, in other words, there's going to be no more hunger. So basic, needs of everybody will be fulfilled. So what does it mean, tzedakah? Because the mitzvahs will still be fulfilled. So tzedakah might mean more, not necessarily monetary. And maybe there will be still some, there will still be, not everybody will have the same. So there will be perhaps some needs that will be, that people will be needy, not in basic needs, for sure not. But maybe there will still be need to give. But then maybe the giving will be to give of ourselves in teaching, because the true poorness is poorness of mind, as we've mentioned many times, that people don't have knowledge, don't have awareness, don't have an experience of connection with Hashem in the appropriate way, and we need to help and guide. But good question. I think Mashiach needs to come and answer that. And, I'm going to leave that for Mashiach. Jean from Colorado, thank you. So Eric is asking a very good question. How can non-Jews participate in bringing Mashiach and preparing the world? Absolutely. It is part of their job, and it's part of the Noahide laws. And charity is an extension of, and I don't recall exactly how it's the extension. It eludes me at the moment. But tzedakah, charity for non-Jews, is, yes, also their part. Remember clearly that I've been speaking about that all people need to engage in tzedakah, and even spoke about how corporations giving money to their employees on a weekly basis for, even if it's just $1, for them to give to tzedakah. So yes, absolutely, non-Jews have their part in what they need to fulfill, and the 7 Noahide laws in general. Charity is a part of that. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, thank you, Clem. Josh asks a very good question. Does yeshiva tuition count towards giving tzedakah? That's not a simple and yes or no answer. Parts of it can be, and here we're talking about the 10% of meiser that a person needs to give. So it's an involved answer. Not for now, but it's possible. Thank you, James, for the blessing. Haley, thank you also. Sharon from the Caribbean, thank you for joining. William from South Korea, thank you for joining. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Claire. Susanna, okay, thank you, everybody. Olena from Kiev. Oh, okay, not the first time. Baruch Hashem, thank you for joining. All right, folks, sharing is caring. That's also tzedakah by sharing the class, because you are giving to those who don't have this knowledge, don't have this teachings, don't have this empowerment. So literally, by sharing, you're doing that. And also what you're doing is identifying with something, and maybe some of you, that's why you don't share, because you might not want to identify so closely with these teachings to the public. I may suggest that that's a challenge that you may be experiencing, and God willing, you'll rise above it and meet the challenge. All right, folks, I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from my home in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. A good Chodesh, a good new month. Today is the first day of Rosh Chodesh. Started LaDavid Hashem Eiri. It's the 30th day of the month of Av. Tomorrow will be the first day of Elul. And may this be a beginning of a wonderful preparation that we together will prepare for a wonderful, good new year. We start already, even previously, to say Ksiva V'Chsimateva, that we should be written and sealed for a wonderful, good year. Thank you.